The tourist decided to laugh in the face of a royal guard, thinking he could do whatever he wanted. His loud laughter echoed through the crowd until one unexpected movement by the guard made everyone freeze. The laughter stopped, and the tourist instantly realized his mistake. What happened next? The scene unfolds early in the morning, near Buckingham Palace, under a grey sky, pierced only slightly by the rays of the rising sun. The palace gates, adorned with golden elements, shine against the strict backdrop of British architecture. A crowd of tourists, dressed in colorful jackets and hats, gathers near the barrier separating them from the royal guard. The sounds of clicking cameras and excited chatter form the background. George, a royal guard, 28 years old, tall, fit, with a military bearing and short dark hair, stands motionless at his post. His red uniform is impeccably pressed, and the bearskin hat majestically crowns his head, adding symbolism to his appearance. His face remains impassive, his gaze fixed in the distance, unaffected by the commotion around him. Thomas, a tall man of about 30, with a thick red beard, ripped jeans, and a bright t-shirt that reads, "I London," stands out with his loudness and energetic gestures. His chunky sneakers are slightly dirty, as if he had just run several blocks. The smile on his face is a mixture of mockery and self-confidence. "Look at this guy," Thomas says loudly, pointing at George. "He's like a statue. I wonder what it would take to make him smile." The crowd falls silent, then bursts into nervous chuckles, but George doesn't react. His stillness only accentuates the contrast with Thomas's chaotic behavior. The tension in the air begins to grow. The crowd gradually gathers closer to witness this clash between tradition and audacity. Someone in the audience whispers, "That's disrespectful. You can't do that." But Thomas seems to feel in control of the situation, continuing his attempts to entertain himself at the guard's expense. Buckingham Palace basked in the morning light, its golden gates glimmering under the first rays of the sun. The crowd of tourists standing by the White Line was like a mosaic of faces, cameras, and bright outfits. Against this backdrop, Thomas stood out, an American tourist around 30. His thick beard and bright t-shirt with the words "I London" were hard to miss, and his chunky sneakers gave the impression he wasn't here for the solemnity of the moment. His gestures were exaggerated, and his laugh loud and provocative. Thomas clearly decided that he needed to be the center of attention. Stepping forward, he stopped at the edge of the white line separating tourists from the guards. His eyes sparkled with mischief, and he shouted, "Hey, buddy! How much do they pay you to be so serious?" The crowd froze. Someone in the audience pulled out their phone to record what was happening. Guard George, 28 years old, in a flawless red uniform and bearskin hat, stood motionless. His face remained just as stern, his gaze fixed in the distance. "Maybe you just need to relax a little," Thomas continued, laughing demonstratively and slapping his knee as if he'd just heard the funniest joke of his life. The crowd began murmuring, and many faces showed disapproval. One spectator muttered, "This isn't funny anymore." But Thomas ignored the disapproving looks and the tense silence around him. He seemed to think he was shining. He took another step forward, almost invading George's personal space, and reached out as if to touch the edge of the bearskin hat. At that moment, a barely perceptible flicker of irritation appeared in George's eyes, but his stance remained impeccable. "What a robot!" Thomas scoffed, tossing a coin onto the ground. "Here's a tip, pal!" The crowd gasped. One tourist shouted loudly, "Stop it! That's too much!" But Thomas waved dismissively, continuing to play his role. His laughter grew louder and louder, while the tension in the air became almost palpable. It seemed the situation was about to spiral out of control. Buckingham Palace, a cloudy morning. The buzz of the crowd quiets as all attention focuses on Thomas and George. Thomas, a tall man with a thick beard, in his ripped jeans and a t-shirt that reads "I London," has just crossed the white line. His mocking expression clearly shows that he considers himself the star of this moment. George, a 28-year-old guard with a serious demeanor, in a red uniform and a majestic bearskin hat, remains completely still. His arms are rigidly at his sides, his gaze focused into the distance. But as Thomas steps closer, George slowly tilts his head, his stern eyes briefly meeting those of the tourist. The gesture seems minor, but carries a clear warning. Thomas grins even wider, convinced that the guard has finally reacted. He takes another step, closing the last few inches between him and George. At that precise moment, George executes a perfectly precise movement. He steps forward, barely raising his hand to point at the white line that Thomas dared to cross. The crowd falls silent. The air feels thick with tension. That simple gesture, symbolizing restraint and royal grace, turns Thomas's joke against him. The man loses his footing, his sneakers slipping on the damp stone, and he nearly falls. The laughter Thomas expected to hear in his support now turns against him. The crowd begins clapping for George, and someone shouts, "Serves him right! Show some respect!" Thomas's face flushes red. He stumbles backward, casting a hesitant glance at the guard, mumbling, "Hey, I was just joking." But by then, his words no longer matter. The crowd roars its approval, and George returns to his unyielding stance, his inscrutable face a symbol of discipline and restraint. Cameras click all around. Tourists eagerly discuss the incident, admiring the guard's professionalism. The crowd, initially uncertain, now appears united in condemning Thomas's actions. In the background, voices exclaim, "He got what he deserved," and "True professionalism." The early morning at Buckingham Palace gradually transitions into a clear day. Sunbeams pierce through the remaining clouds, bathing the area in soft golden light. The crowd buzzing just moments ago now slowly disperses, leaving room for discussions about the event, which is already going viral. George, the 28-year-old guard in his impeccable red uniform with golden buttons and bearskin hat, resumes his position. His face remains calm and inscrutable. He carefully adjusts his hat, his movements precise and deliberate, as if rehearsed 1,000 times. At this moment, he embodies the true essence of royal honor and composure. Thomas, the 30-year-old tourist with a thick red beard, bright eye London t-shirt, ripped jeans and chunky sneakers, looks entirely different from how he did at the start of this story. His confidence has vanished, his mocking expression replaced with embarrassment. He tries to leave the area with his head down, but two security guards, polite yet firm, direct him toward the exit. "Please leave the area, sir," one of them says in an even tone. Thomas mutters something incoherent, avoiding eye contact. His face is red with shame, and his movements awkward. What had once been his moment of glory has turned into a lesson he won't soon forget. The crowd around continues to buzz with excitement. Some laugh, others take final photos, and someone shouts, "Great professionalism! A true pride of Britain!" A particularly elegant elderly woman in a chic hat and pearl necklace turns to her companion and says, "We should be proud of men like him. That's what tradition is all about." Videos of the incident are already gaining traction online. Comments under the clips read, "When an American tourist learns to respect British traditions." The guard put the loudmouth in his place without saying a word. True strength, the unshakable discipline of the Royal Guard. George stands motionless at the gates of Buckingham Palace. His red uniform contrasts sharply with the golden gates and majestic architecture. The sunlight highlights his unwavering poise and strength. This day becomes a reminder that tradition and respect outweigh mockery. George, still and proud, remains a symbol of honor and dedication. As for Thomas, well, he'll definitely remember this lesson for a long time.